Hi, welcome back. So you watched me do the start of that Hopf violin restoration, did all the crack repairs, I did the cleats and closed the instrument. So in this video you get to watch me do all the retouching, and the retouching is really where the magic happens, because that's where the cracks become invisible and the instrument kind of looks whole again. It looks like the way it may have looked, partially looked once, maybe 100 years ago or something like that. So anyway, watch me do the rest of that restoration. I'm also going to do the setup, I'll do the bridge, the sound pose, playing the fingerboard and put on the strings, and you will hear the first sounds being made from this violin in many years. It hadn't been played much for over a decade, and so you'll hear the sounds for the first time. Good morning. Got my second morning coffee. My parcel arrived from Germany with my tools. It's super exciting. So right now I'm going to take the clamps off the Hopf violin. It's so nice to finally have this violin together as one, in one piece. I'm really excited about hearing it. I mean, it's got a lot of work to do. I've got to play in the fingerboard. You can see the fingerboard's got really deep grooves in it. It's quite impressive. I've definitely got to fill the cracks before I play in the fingerboard, but then I'll do the cleaning and things like that. It's incredible. Look how worn the neck is just in here. This is all from his hand when he was playing back here. It's just amazing. The instrument came together really well. I'm definitely happy with the way it came together. I'm just going to have to clean a bit, and also there's some open joints on the back still as well. But for now I'm going to put it aside until I'm ready to do the next step, which is probably this afternoon. I'll be cleaning and filling the cracks a bit because I need to protect them. It's another evening, and I took the clamps off the other day, and now I am just going to fill some of the cracks with varnish. I want to do that before I actually clean the whole instrument, because I'm going to use a bit of water to clean it, and I want to make sure none of the water gets in there. I'm going to get rid of most of it afterwards, so if I go slightly over, it's not too big a problem here. So I'm pretty much now going to do the rest of the cracks the same way, and then I have to let it dry. It's another weekend, so I'm going to let it dry all weekend, and then on Monday I'll be cleaning the whole instrument, which is very exciting because that's actually a sign that I'm getting very close to finishing the whole restoration. And I know the owner of this violin is already getting very excited because it used to be owned by this old gentleman. It's another rainy day here in Brisbane, and we've actually got a trough, and we've had, I don't know, hundreds of millimeters of rain over the last few days. So it's been kind of crazy, but nice day to sit here and work. I've been continuing my work on the violin. I've filled these cracks. I've filled a lot of the cracks, so at the moment I am scraping back where I filled the cracks with a clear filling varnish, and that's just to level out the areas where the cracks are. There's like a tiny little dent, so I fill that with a special varnish that restorers use, and now I'm just kind of carefully working it back and just letting the scraper float very carefully so that I don't accidentally remove any of the original varnish. I'm just removing the edges of the filler varnish that I've used here. The slightly lighter color around here was there before from a previous repair, so I'm going to have to retouch that and make it look, match in with some of the other varnish colors, more similar to, maybe the varnish on the back, but also the rest of the top, just so it matches in and looks good. So today I had a chat to the owner of this violin, and this violin was given to him. It was given to him by a man that he helped at one point in his life. When the man was dying, he got the wife to get some paper, and I said, look, I need you to write this down. And he gave her some instructions of, that he wanted the house painted and the fence fixed and a few things, just to make life better for the wife. And then he had the second request, which was to give his father's old violin to this man that helped him, who's my current client, getting this instrument restored. Funnily enough, my client is not a violinist. Maybe he knew that he was going to look after the instrument properly, and maybe he knew it could help my client as well in some way. Time will tell. It had been his father's violin. His father was a musician who played all over the place on the side of roads and things like that. He did a lot of busking. In the case, there are newspaper articles of the man's father where he had done busking to help some people in need, and he used this violin to busk and earn money. So it's got a really beautiful story, and the story continues, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes. It was really important to my client that the instrument gets restored properly, so the instrument is back in a really good usable condition. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But it's a beautiful story, and I love how each instrument, as it gets older, has a story. And the instrument you're playing right now, you're creating a story on that instrument. Your life story, how you love playing music, and the happiness that you bring, or the emotions that you bring to people that you perform for, or just yourself, if you just enjoy playing to yourself, which a lot of people do. So every instrument has a story, and every instrument becomes part of a story. And because we express our emotions so deeply through an instrument, I feel that a little bit of that stays behind. It becomes part of the instrument forever. So anyway, I am going to keep sanding just a little bit, and then the time has come to put some clear varnish onto the instrument. Alright, so it's a few days later. So all the filling I did on the cracks, I have now leveled out, and I'm in the process of putting a bit of clear varnish on the instrument, and today I will start doing some color retouching as well. So that's a varnish recipe that is over 300 years old. So it's older than this violin. So I'm basically just getting some varnish on here just to make sure that these areas will end up smooth. I also got to get some varnish on here. I'll do a little bit around the edges as well. This is what happens when you don't concentrate. Well, it's been a few days, but time has come to really get into the finishing touches. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to plane the fingerboard, get that nut back on. I am going to make a bridge, and then I'll do some retouching. So I have to do some more retouching. But I just want to get the bridge and fingerboard out of the way, and then I'll get on with some retouching. So today I've got a client-free day, so I can really focus on the instrument. I'll do the fingerboard, and then I'll just do the final clean. So just anything that still needs cleaning on the instrument, I'll do that. And then I can just get on with the retouching and make the instrument look whole again, really make it look like one instrument. I think the old guy that originally owned it would be amazed. Now the fingerboard is just so worn. You can see he played so much that he actually wore into the neck and scroll here with his fingers. It's just crazy. Even this edge is really worn off. Now planing the fingerboard's pretty straightforward. You have seen it many times. So I'm just gonna show a very, very short snapshot. I've got a proper video on how I plane a fingerboard, so you can watch that if you want to see more. Oh, this is so much nicer. Take a look at this. Okay, so now I just have to glue on the nut. Okay, that just has to dry, and then I'm going to fit the bridge. But first, I'm gonna have lunch, and I'll probably end up going for a little bike ride as well. I've already been for a big walk this morning, but I think a little bike ride would be nice. It's another morning, so I've cleaned the fingerboard yesterday. I'm gonna do the bridge today, and then I'll do a whole lot of retouching. I've picked a really nice bridge for this violin. Finished bridge, so I'm going to put that aside and then keep working on the instrument. I've got a few clients, so I won't be working on it till later. Okay, it's evening, and I'm doing some retouching on this violin. So I'm just mixing some color, and then I will do some retouching. It's a fair bit to do. So I've got the area with a crack here. I've got some lighter areas around these three cracks. Got a lighter area here, and then I've got the area around the bridge. The back's pretty good, and so are the sides. So those are going to be my main areas of focus. So part of what I do is also to make sure that, you know, if there's bumps and scratches, that they continue through the crack area. You might have some really old bumps and scratches, you know, ones that happened 100 years ago or something like that. But if they're broken up by the crack, then it makes it very obvious. So I'm going to work on some of these larger areas. Alright, now I've just got to put a cover varnish on. Now I've got to do it very fast so I don't wipe the colour off. Okay, I'm actually going to let that dry overnight, and I'll get back into it tomorrow morning. Good morning! Today is another client-free day, and today I'm going to finish all the varnish work on the Hopf violin. You can see I've already done a fair bit of retouching. So the important thing for me now is to get, like, I mean, this instrument, you can see it's got multiple types of varnish. You can see there's some dark bits of varnish just here. There's like really worn off areas here and down here. And then there's sort of a lighter color around here and here. So what I'm going to do is, the idea is to make the instrument look consistent. So it's not like I'm not trying to make it look like a, you know, a one colored sort of VSO. Like, this is an old instrument and it has a story to tell. And so I'm going to leave some of the worn areas, but I'm going to cover up like a lot of where the cracks are. I'm going to try and make that as invisible as possible. But then also I've got little areas like this area here. You can see there's a very distinct mark of it being lighter. So I'm just going to blur that line a little bit, like make it not as obvious. So I'm going to retouch some fairly dark color in through here. And then I'll try and remove that very clear line here and just blend it a little bit. So that's my goal here. The goal is basically to give the instrument a consistent varnished look. It'll be nicely polished at the end, but it also needs to still retain its original beautiful look. So the area I'm going to focus on right now will be this little area here and here, just kind of blending that a little bit. I think it's time to get another coffee. Okay, so I'm back with my coffee. So I'm just gonna varnish over the top of some of the color that I've done. But it's looking a little bit better. It's not quite as intense, especially on this side here. So I'm just going to try and take the intensity out of these lines here. So I'll still leave it a bit lighter, but it won't be as intense. Okay, so I've darkened this a bit. Now you can see already there's a much better sort of varnish picture. Also down here, I mean, I'll darken this area just a little bit more. Usually there's a lighter patch here where the chin goes, so I'm not going to do too much. Like, I'll just darken this little patch here. It's all about like leaving that authentic feel, but still everything being covered and retouched. It's fun. I love this. It's very, you know, it's like an art. I just really enjoy it. I've been retouching for a while now, and I'm getting fairly close to being quite happy with the result and the way it looks. Like, it really has that feeling of a beautiful old violin. You know, there's differences in color, but it's all kind of worn, and it kind of looks like it's supposed to. So fairly soon I'll start putting some of the cover varnish on. From then on, I can start doing all the polishing and that kind of stuff. I've already made the bridge. Got to work on the pegs and those kinds of things, but it's a beautiful violin. It's I really love it. Kind of interesting matching in. So right now I'm matching in an old crack repair which was retouched really darkly. So it's just through here, just matching that in. I mean, you won't see much of it because the tailpiece is here, the bridge is there, but still, you know, I don't want it to be too obvious. So it's this area around here. Putting a bit of cover varnish over these areas. I'm actually very pleased with how this is looking now. It's kind of when it all comes together like this, it's actually a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. I'm gonna let this dry now and probably start polishing after that, I'm thinking, which is very exciting. So at the moment I'm working on fitting the pegs. I've used my peg reamer to get the right shape, and I am now using my peg shaver to get the correct thickness of the peg that matches. And then after I've done this, I will sand the pegs and I'll cut them off, drill the holes in for the strings, put peg paste on, and then they're ready to go. Alright, now I will sand these pegs. So the way I do it is I go through different grades of sandpaper, just as I did with the fingerboard or with the bridge when I finish it off. That way, by the time I get to the finest grade, the pegs will look amazing. And I go through from 120, 180, 240 grade and 400 grade. Some people go finer, but it's not really necessary. Okay, now I'm just going to do them with oil. Grabbing a bit of oil here, go over it with fine sandpaper. Alright, so now I'm going to put peg paste on them. I do that before I cut them to length, because when I put peg paste on, the peg actually slips in just that little bit further. And that way when I cut the ends off, I really get it right. So now I'm just going to mark the actual length. Okay, so I've cut off the ends, and now I'm just going to just sand the ends properly. There you go. Okay, now I've just got to drill little holes and the peg is finished. Okay, I've let the varnish dry for a while, so I'm just going to do a quick sand over and then it's time to polish the violin. And I'm really excited because once the violin is polished, I just got to let it dry some more. Then I can put the strings on, which is super exciting. I've put many layers of varnish over so I can actually sand. I'm using very fine sandpaper, but don't have to worry about sanding off some of the retouching I've done. Okay, I'm just going to wipe this dry, then I'm going to let it rest a tiny bit. So I've just let this dry and get all my polishing gear ready, and then it's just time to polish everything. And it's really exciting. The polishing process, it just brings the whole repair together, and it's kind of that finishing touch that makes the instrument look just beautiful. And then after that I just need to put on the strings and we'll hear the first sound, so which is just exciting. Okay, so that's sort of the first polish over. It's starting to look a lot better already, but it still needs a fair bit more. Not so much on the back, but especially that top, this area where I've been doing the retouching. I need to do a bit more blending, like it's not quite even yet. So I'll let this dry, then I'll probably end up doing some more sanding, and then I'll do more polishing after that. Okay, so I let this dry for a while and now I'm going to sand over it again. By now it's actually fairly late in the evening. I'm kind of excited about seeing this violin all finished, so... Okay, I've let that dry and now I'm going to get back into polishing. Starting to look really nice. Check this out. Gonna hang this up to dry some more and I'll be back into it. I'm just working late tonight because I want to get the strings on. So I've got my Gypsy Jazz, got a nice XPA beer. I don't drink a lot, but just occasionally a nice, good quality beer or nice wine. Love Italian wines. Well, the moment has come. I'm going to put strings on this beautiful violin. I put the pegs back in, they're already fitted. I've already readjusted the nut to the correct height. I'm going to use a fine-tuning tailpiece on this one because I'm not quite sure who the player is going to be. I want to make sure that they're able to tune the instrument. Okay, I've got all the strings on. I have actually already fitted the sound post. Okay, I popped on a chin rest as well. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of playing and then I'm going to let the instrument settle in. I always love the moment when I first play a violin. So I haven't done any adjustments yet and it's got this really beautiful deepish sort of a sound, so it's really stunning. I'm going to let it settle in and then I'll come back just before the client comes to pick up their instrument. So this is very, very exciting. I'll just hang up the violin for the night. Today is the exciting day where the violin is going to get picked up. So this violin would have a long story. It was made in the early 1800s. It somehow made it to Australia, and in the 1950s onwards, this gentleman used to busk in the small town where he lived, and he actually busked to help children in need. The violin got passed on to his son. The son wasn't a violinist, and when the son was passing away, he wanted to make sure that the instrument was well looked after, and he gave it to my client who wanted to make sure that it got looked after. So it's kind of an amazing story. I'm really happy with the way everything's come together. It's got a deep sound. I could really imagine it working well for busking. Yeah, it's got a really great tone. It's got a one-piece back, as you can see. Really beautiful sides, actually stunning. Really nice top. Had all those cracks that I restored, and it was in a terrible state of repair. So it's just nice to see it all back in one piece. So now that the violin is restored, it begins its next chapter in its life. It'll be interesting to see where the next chapter takes the violin, who's going to play it. It's also good to remember that the instrument you're playing is part of your story, and it will have a history and a story to tell as well. Some instruments might be new now, but in 100 years they'll tell of a different story of a past time where people were holding small handheld devices that they stared at a lot, and we're just at the cusp of electric cars. I hope you enjoyed watching the process of restoring this violin. If you liked this video, remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the little bell, because you'll find out the next time I post a video. Thanks for watching. Keep making beautiful music. See you guys.